If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
You're doing all the right things, like eating clean and staying active, but nearly all of us are still missing a key piece: minerals. Concentrate's Daily Mineral Powder helps restore what your body's not getting, supporting mood, energy, immunity, and nervous system balance. It's made from ionic trace minerals your body actually absorbs and comes in 3 delicious flavors: blue raspberry, blue Hawaiian, and blue acai. Because your body can't make minerals, and modern food and water don't supply enough, start with minerals. Start with Concentrates. Find it now at traceminerals.com.
Hi, friends, and welcome to a very special collaboration with yours truly, your Bish therapist, and our dear friend, Amy Phillips.
Hello, everybody. It's a Bish therapist, your Bish therapist, and drama darling collaboration extraordinaire today. Hi, Melissa. I'm so excited.
Hi, Amy. I am very, very excited. Amy messaged me about unknown number, which is what we're going to cover today. And when you texted me that, my head exploded in excitement because I watched it, and it was one of those things that I felt really compelled and fascinated by. And so I have 4 pages of notes, and I could talk about this for 20 years.
Well,
so
I just feel like really appreciative that you kind of like let me behind the curtain of your Bish therapist Oz that you've created because guys, she sent me her notes. Okay. So jealous. And so it's just fun to see how your brain works. And I've never, ever seen more organized notes in my life. So comprehensive.
Yeah, I have a problem.
Well, I wish I had that problem. This is amazing. Okay. Well, I just feel like I am, you know, on the Vanderpump Rules, how Tom Sandoval has that motorcycle with a sidecar?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just picture me in the sidecar. I am Tom Schwartz, and unfortunately, you are Tom Sandoval in this scenario, and it's going to be all about you, and I'm going to be riding along with you going, Bubba, you're doing great, Bubba. Yeah, Bubba, turn right. So, unknown number. Now,
yes.
I have one interesting thing to say about this. I have one interesting thing to say about this, and that is this: that about a year ago, Lisa Rinna starred in a movie on Lifetime called Mommy Meanest. Mommy Meanest. You're such a podcaster now. You're like not talking over me. You're like nodding your head. You're so funny. So yeah, she starred in this movie, and it's roughly loosely based on this story. So yeah. We watched that for my Drama Darling podcast. It was a Patreon exclusive. And I did this with Jamie Moyer and Angela Quintana, and we just had a blast recapping Mommy Meanest. It was so fun. Lisa Rinna was excellent. And we had a great time with that. So that was my first foray into this story because I knew it was loosely based on this woman. And that being said, you can check that out on my Patreon, patreon.com/drama darling. But also, I'm from Michigan, so I don't like that Michigan is being represented in this way, as Kendra is from Michigan. So I apologize to everyone for that. But Michigan is a great place to be. All right.
It really is. As a Midwestern gal, I can attest to that. This is a very, usually I feel like people in the Midwest are very wonderful and friendly and cordial. So this woman does not represent us, y'all. Just to be really clear about that. Right. And listen, Amy, I'm happy to have you in the sidecar, but let me ask you a quick question. The Mommy Meanest. So someone just talked about that on Jeff Lewis Live. I think it was Ryan Bailey. And they said that it wasn't the best movie. What was your review of Mommy? How dare?
How dare he? I thought, look, he's obviously not a Lifetime movie
connoisseur.
Thank you, connoisseur, or anyone who's going to. He clearly doesn't appreciate the gold that's before him. So I don't know what kind of rating scale he's on, but it's not mine. So I mean, I thought it was great. Obviously, it's a crazy story. So that in and of itself made it a very good Lifetime movie, that it was based on. So, I mean, and Lisa Rinna being in it was so fascinating. So I loved it.
I mean, Lisa Rinna is sincerely just a great actress. She really is. I didn't love her on Housewives, but I love her in a good Lifetime movie, especially the one that she did with Harry, where he was like a sex addict. I don't remember what the name of that movie was.
Wow. I didn't see that.
They were
That's
married
amazing.
in the movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Harry Hamlin played a sex addict, and she was like this long-suffering wife. And it was a very interesting movie. Of course, I can't remember the name. So
sure. It's probably called Sex Addict. My husband. Right. The sex addict. But, I think she's a great Lifetime movie actress, and I really appreciate that. And she's a great actress on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Ha ha. Okay. So, all right, let's get into Unknown Number. Melissa?
Okay, let me give y'all
think?
a little synopsis because, and here's what I have to say at the top. If anyone has not watched this contains spoilers. Like immediately we're going to have to talk about what the twist is, because to talk about this episode, we have to really talk about, the twist.
And if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. And if you don't know anything about it, I'm so jealous because it'll be an unbelievable reveal.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I had to watch it twice after I did. I watched it the first time on the edge of my seat. And then after the reveal, I was like, I have to watch this again from a new lens. And of course I did. And I have a lot to say about that. So tune out or go watch it if you don't want spoilers, and then come back, because the one thing about this show is they miss the opportunity to have a professional talk about the psychological concepts, which there's just so many throughout this whole documentary. And I'm like, that was such a missed opportunity. Did you not agree?
Melissa. Yes, I completely agree. I didn't even think about it. I just immediately thought, I've got to talk to Melissa. We got to hear what she has to say. And so this is not the official companion podcast to Unknown Number, but I'd like to say it's the official companion podcast to Unknown Number on Hulu.
Yeah. Netflix.
Okay.
Netflix. Yes.
So I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about our Kendra.
Oh boy. So here's the synopsis for people who would like that.
Okay.
This is a true story of Lauren Licari, featured in Netflix's Unknown Number, The High School Catfish. It does take place in Beale City, Michigan. And the timeline is from October 2020 to April 2023 that all this was happening. 13-year-old Lauren and her boyfriend, Owen McKinney, were cyberbullied via an unknown number for basically 2 years. After school administrators and local police could not solve the crime, the FBI were able to solve it and were able to link an IP address to the phone number belonging to a shocking culprit, which turns out to be Lauren's mother, Kendra Licari.
The
mother of the girl who this was happening to. And the reason why that we have to say that immediately is that one thing about this documentary that bothered me straight off the top is once you find out that it was her mother and you go back through those disgusting texts, the sexual texts, all these things, it is really clear to me that this is a case where, because she's a woman, she's getting special treatment and she's not getting held accountable in ways that really personally bug me.
Absolutely. I had the same thought.
Because here's the thing, Amy, as a mom, right? It's like you couldn't even imagine something like this happening to your child, let alone being the one to perpetrate it. And so I feel like what I'm going to talk a lot about today is what we see and my interpretation of what I think is going on with Kendra. Because in my opinion, whoever produced this documentary had gave her far too much grace. And I would argue that if she were a man sending these sexually harassing texts to 13-year-old children, do we understand these children were 13 and 14 years old? Okay. It's not like they were 19, 20. I mean, even then it's disgusting.
Yeah.
So
no
she's
age.
sending... Right. And so I think that just at the top, I'll say my beef too is with Netflix in terms of like, you know, this woman, I believe, is a predator. She's extremely manipulative. She has a very colorful psychological profile, which I'm, you know, going to kind of lay out for everybody. But to break it down a little bit more, so the messages started, Owen and Lauren started receiving the messages in October of 2020. And Lauren and Owen were like the quintessential, you know, couple in terms of like, I think they met in junior high. They were friends, you know, since like childhood. And they just had this really sweet love, which again, it's like everything about this case. There's just layers and layers of awfulness, right? So Lauren and Owen, so sweet. They have this relationship. And then one day, October 2020, they start getting these wild, harassing texts. Now, initially, the texts they would happen consistently, but then there was a period where they went away for 11 months.
Right. And I wanted to ask, and you can answer this later, but just putting that in here for the break, you know, obviously, why was there a break? And I'm just wondering, was she on medication before this? And then like she stopped and then she started these texts. And then when there was the break, did she get back on medication? And then did she get back off of medication, which is why she started again? So you can throw that in and answer that later, but that's...
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. My immediate thought is that what I'm seeing with this woman is a pervasive pattern of clinically significant markers that I don't think have anything to do with medication or non-medication, to be honest.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah. I don't think so.
This type of personality disorder or whatever it is, the psychosis that it is, cannot be fixed with a medication.
So not this level of behavior, this predatory, manipulative, narcissistic behavior, no, medication would not. Like people who have narcissistic personality disorder, for example, it's hard to treat because medication is not typically something that is effective.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you know, people need to want to come in and get the help that they need. And let me be clear at the top of the episode. As everybody knows, our darling bitches know, I am not Kendra's therapist. I don't know this family. I am not diagnosing her. I am making my best assessments based on her personality type, things I've seen in clinical practice. And then there were a couple of things throughout the documentary that with my eagle eye, I could find things to kind of back up what I was saying, some things that came out of her own mouth. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, but it's a good question, Amy, that you pose, nevertheless, which is it started and then it stopped for 11 months. So what on earth was happening in those 11 months with this woman that she was just like, went off the grid and then she started back up? And here's what's very interesting to me in terms of the timeline that I wrote down. After she started back up, texting and harassing her child and her child's boyfriend. When she started back up, she was very over-focused on Lauren and Owen's relationship. So initially the texts were, you know, just like horrible and stupid. Like, he doesn't want to be with you and you suck and all these other things.
He's breaking up with you. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the really, really egregious messages, which I will also give a trigger warning, because some of the messages she sent were encouraging self-harm and suicide. So I just want to be really clear that that's something that we're going to be talking about too, at the top. And so when Kendra starts back up after the 11 months, very over-focused on their relationship. And then Lauren and Owen got to the point where they actually did break up because they were literally being harassed. And they thought, well, maybe if we give this person what they want, they'll go away. And so what's interesting is after the breakup, the messages got even worse. And that's when Kendra started cyberbullying her daughter into telling her, and I quote, "Kill yourself now, bitch. You are worthless and mean nothing. His life would be better if you were dead. You are the ugliest person I've ever seen." Okay, this is what this mother was sending to her daughter. And
God, I have no,
me,
it's shocking to even be talking about it and re-experiencing the weight of how beyond comprehension this is. Your timeline is amazing. Please pretend I said nothing. Go on. Okay.
No, Amy, what you have to say is important, my dear. And so,
Okay.
but one thing that the timeline helped me figure out is so what we see here is a behavioral escalation, right?
Okay.
We see an escalation of behaviors, which is going to be important. And so after 15 months, local police got involved. And of course, here's the funny thing. And this is for people maybe who you haven't watched it. Here's why this was a twist. Because the documentary starts out with Kendra just talking about, we went to the school and we were upset they weren't doing enough and blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, so producers lead you to believe that this is just like a mother who's upset for her child. And then at the end, that's when you get the real story from Kendra and Lauren and Lauren's father. And I felt as an audience member, I felt duped and I felt really angry.
Yes.
Is that how you felt as well?
Well, you didn't know going into it what this story was, correct? I mean, you had heard, my gosh, Melissa, I can't even imagine what you must have experienced. Okay, I did. I already knew that it was the mother based on the Mommy Minas thing, and I knew about the story. So I did not know how absolutely tremendously awful those text messages were. And I also thought at that time, because in Mommy Minas, she's setting up bots to write these messages. So when I'm watching this movie, the documentary, I was thinking that she's programmed bots to send these messages. I never thought for a second that they were coming from her, that she was authoring them. And so that is the reveal that blew my ever-loving mind, that it wasn't a bunch of computers doing this or a bunch of phones set up to harass, that they were curated by her.
Right.
But when you asked me, did I know? I knew ultimately that it was the mother. But when I was watching it, I had to question myself whether or not I even knew the real story. Because I'm like, there's no way that she's in this documentary.
That's right. And you think to yourself, why the hell did this predator get the opportunity to pretend for the first hour of this movie that she was not involved? I didn't like that.
Wow.
Everything about this, as a therapist, as a woman who loves children, my nieces and nephews, as a person in the world, I just thought whoever did this dropped the ball so hard that I had a hard time getting over it.
Wow, that's such a good point. Yeah. That's a great point.
So anyway.
Wow, now I'm pissed.
And I think, and I went on Reddit and obviously social media, and a lot of people feel the same way we do in terms of like, why was she given this opportunity to lie and tell this revisionist story? Which, as I watched it again, that's what royally pissed me off when I watched it the second time, because since I knew, and then I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't like that she was given this grace. Again, if she were a man who were sending 13-year-old children, sexually harassing texts, do you think they would have said, okay, sir, let's just pretend for an hour that you're not the culprit? Right? Okay.
Right.
I'm going to stop perseverating on that.
I really don't. There's no way they would have. Our culture wouldn't have been able to handle that. And yet,
that's exactly
with a
right.
woman, we were able to handle that. So much so that I was pissed as it is. And I didn't even notice, I didn't even think about the level in which how wrong it was to do what they did by allowing her to be there. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think it just speaks to when women have psychopathology. So psychopathology is a broad term for, when you hear the term sociopath, psychopath, what that is saying is that people who have kind of antisocial personality disorder, the one characteristic of sociopathy is lack of empathy. And I think, for me, the one thing, we're going to go into the why in a minute, but for me, that's one thing I really want people to pay attention to as I'm talking about all of this stuff, right? Like how little empathy you would have to experience for another person to perpetrate these crimes for years and years on end. I just want people to keep that in the back of their brain. Okay, so the FBI finally got involved after local police couldn't figure it out. And the reason local police couldn't figure it out is because Kendra is an extraordinarily good manipulator. Women definitely tend to get away with more than men when they have psychopathology because they can be more sympathetic to the untrained eye. And in fact, when they're at the end, you see the body cam footage of when the local police went to talk to her, and they gave her graces that no person on earth would have received.
Now, was that for the purpose of getting a confession out of her?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Here, I'll tell. Okay, let's go back to that because I don't want to get everyone confused and be all over the place.
We can hit that later. Okay.
So then in April 26, 2023, Kendra did go to court and was sentenced for 2 counts of stalking a minor only. And August 8th, 2024, she was released from jail. And now she is just living in the world, absolutely no consequences. And this is, to me, is a psychologically dangerous person who she'll get herself in trouble again. I don't know how, but someone of this level who does things like this, again, if she were a man, I think it'd be treated more seriously. Why isn't she on Megan's Law? Why isn't she a sexual predator? Let's get into kind of not only exactly what she did, but I also made a list of other things that Kendra did, because it speaks to her pathology, right? So not only did she send all these texts, which some of them I'll read in just a minute, she lost both of her jobs and didn't have a job for a full year, but was lying to her husband and her family that she was working. That's super significant. Like, what are you doing with your time? And I wonder if that has something to do with the 11 months of gap. I don't completely know. Kendra framed and harassed Lauren's friends and classmates, Adriana, Owen, Chloe. She ruined these children's lives. It wasn't just her daughter, and it wasn't just her daughter's boyfriend. Remember, she framed a girl on the basketball team. She set up another one of her friends. Of course, she sexually harassed underage children, which again, it makes me rage that she was not given consequences for this. And the last thing she did was she made a false insurance claim that her house had been hit by lightning. And then she just went ahead and... Classic Kendra. She went ahead and pocketed that money and then stopped paying the bills, which led the family to get evicted, which is also known as financial abuse.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah. So this woman checks every single box: lack of empathy, financial abuse, sexual harassment, psychological abuse. It's just, it's wild. Okay. So imagine being a teenage girl and suddenly receiving texts from an unknown number, sometimes at a rate of 40 to 50 per day. For 2 years, she received texts, as I read, "You're the ugliest person I've ever seen. You're worthless, send me nothing. Kill yourself. Jump off a bridge. His life would be better if you were dead." And the last one, this is interesting. "Ugly skank, you trying to get attention, fuck off." So I starred that, and here's why I starred that.
Okay.
People who have underlying clinically significant pathology will always tell on themselves if you're listening close enough and you know what to catch. And so what I think is really significant about this is she is angry at her child for the attention her child is receiving. And I believe that part of this was to gain attention for herself, which, so can I share what I think is going on with Kendra? Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, please. Oh my God.
So this is going to be a long one. First of all, we see a lot of ego, narcissism, control, and power. So what predators do, and I'm going to keep calling Kendra a predator because make no mistake, she is a predator. Hurting her daughter Lauren kept her scared and dependent and easy to manipulate. That is right out of the abuser's handbook, right? Make people isolated, dependent, so that they can't leave or that they feel like they need you. So I feel that it was like two birds, one stone with Lauren. Part of it was for attention. And during the documentary, they talked about Munchausen syndrome. Okay.
Digital Munchausen. Yeah.
Right. And I wanted to be clear about some of that because, okay, here's the thing with Munchausen syndrome. Munchausen syndrome, it's no longer called that anymore. And the reason why is Munchausen syndrome was named after this guy, Baron Munchausen, who was just like told tall tales and was just kind of like a goofy, he was like the town tall tale guy, right? And so when we name something like a disorder in psychology, you want it to have a little bit more like basis to what it actually is.
Instead of the person that it's affiliated with.
Exactly. Which is like, he just talked a lot of shit. Like, that's not a reason to name something after him. But anyway.
I talk a lot of shit. Am I named in the DSM-5 or 3? I don't know which. Anyway.
Yeah, 5 TR. You're good. Maybe in 6. I don't know.
I'm excited.
So Munchausen syndrome is now technically called factitious disorder because it's just more specific about what's going on. So there's two things. You could call it digital factitious disorder. It is also called Munchausen by internet, which is MBI for short.
Wow.
And so, but Munchausen by internet was first identified by Dr. Mark Feldman in actually the year 2000. And he described it as the misuse of internet groups by offering false stories of personal illness and crisis to garner attention. So it's essentially the online expression of what was happening with Munchausen syndrome, which, to be clear, is that it occurs when someone consciously feigns an illness or induces symptoms. And if it's of themselves, then it's just factitious disorder. If it's on someone else, like, for example, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, she's a great example. That was factitious disorder imposed on another.
Okay. That's
what you call it when you do that to a child. And so although the, internet is vast and, there's there's research behind this. It actually is one of the most under-researched psychopathologies. And so I was just trying to bone up on it a little bit. But the long and the short of it is that this factitious disorder, digital, whatever you want to call it, it's a type of online deceptive behavior that involves falsely occupying the sick, victim, and or hero roles, causing emotional distress to those who are duped. So that makes a lot of sense.
That's right? Like Scamanda. Yeah. That's like all of the, did you know about Scamanda? Okay.
I covered that. Yep. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. And so what I think this is saying is that part of Kendra wanted to be in a hero role, even though she was the one perpetrating the abuse on her child. And so for me, it for sure falls under a factitious disorder imposed on another. Mm-hmm. However, because of the aforementioned narcissism, lack of empathy, ego, power, and control, there are also more devious things at play, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So I think that my interpretation is that Munchausen syndrome or factitious disorder imposed on another is the vehicle that she used to get attention and to manipulate people, because it was also as much about manipulating others. She wanted to be in a hero role for her child and her family, but also for her community and for Owen's parents. And, she was a coach and a PTA mom and all these things.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. So she was feeding her sick ego, but also, so I think the Munchausen was the vehicle she used to get attention and manipulate, but the narcissism and the ego, the need for control, admiration, and power is really what drove her, I believe.
Wow. Dang, Melissa, drop the mic. Wow. Mm-hmm. Why didn't this happen sooner or before? I mean, why all of a sudden did this start happening when her daughter Lauren turned 12 or 13? Why? Or is it just that we just don't know what she was doing? Is it that she found a new vehicle? Was there something earlier that we don't know about?
Yeah, so those are all great questions that I asked myself. I have a theory. Now, Kendra said in her talking head interview when she was giving all those fake tears that I just, I'm going to be honest, I just can't stand this woman, and I'm trying to be really respectful and responsible, but it just makes me so angry. So one thing that she said that gave me a little bit of a clue is that she claims that she had childhood trauma and that when she was 17, she was sexually assaulted, and she claimed that was the reason why. I say bullshit.
Okay, because I wanted to ask you, why is she? That's her excuse. That is her excuse.
That's her excuse. Kendra has nothing but excuses. Mm-hmm. She's got she owned nothing. She acknowledged nothing. And I'll go into that more in a minute. But no, because here's the one thing I know for sure is that when someone is sexually abused or perpetrated on, they can become perpetrators because of that abuse. That can happen, unfortunately, right? Mm-hmm. However, most trauma survivors, people with mental health issues, would rather die than harm someone they love. So for me, her little excuse just falls flat. Because again, it's not like she made an oopsie. She sexually harassed, cyberbullied, and psychologically tortured her child, ruining her child's life, destroying her marriage, and everyone in her path. That's not because you were assaulted when you were 17. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Nope.
It doesn't add up.
No. And also I think it's insulting to survivors, right? Because it's like, we don't do that. No. But one thing she said in her talking head, and I have it underlined, is she said, I wanted to try to control the outcome of her journey. And I quote, that's what she said. And then she tried to couch it with, I wanted to keep her close and I was scared to let her grow up. Okay. No. The first sentence that she said,
right?
Right. Absolutely. Oh, positively. It's saying like, oh, I just loved her. And it's like,
right.
You didn't love this child. You abused this child disguised as love. Mm-hmm. That's not love. Mm-mm. It's abuse. But when she said, I wanted to control the outcome of her journey, that was truth. I can tell you that was truth because at the end of the day, what this woman wanted was control over her child, control over her child's life, control over her child's body, because she made a lot of really disgusting comments about her body. So if I may be so bold, now I'm going to be honest, I'm going to share some of these texts that are from the movie. They're texts that she sent. They are very disturbing and they are graphic. So please use your discretion as you listen.
Yeah. Okay.
So the sexual nature of these text messages not only suggests everything that I just said, but it suggests a sexual preoccupation with underage children. I said what I said. And this is some of the things that she said to her child. Okay. It's obvious he wants me. So Kendra texted her daughter, Lauren, it's obvious he wants me, which is Owen, her boyfriend. Okay. He laughs, smiles, touches my hair. You are a sweet girl, but I know I can give him what he wants. Sorry, not sorry. Mm-hmm. These are tame. Mm-hmm. Owen loves me, and I will always be the girl he loves. He will be with me while your lonely, ugly ass is at home.
Wow.
Then it transitions. This is when they get really disgusting. Mm-hmm. Fucking trash bitch. Don't effing wear leggings. Ain't no one want to see your anorexic flat ass.
Yeah.
Owen and I, this is really disgusting. Owen and I down to suck, finger fuck, his dick and fingers, my pussy and mouth.
She doesn't even make sense. She makes zero sense.
Right. And then there's a couple more, because I really want to hammer this point home, that this is not someone who is deserving of a single ounce of empathy or understanding. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is a person who should be on a list for the rest of her damn life. Mm-hmm. She then said, my fucking tits in his face, fucking make him horny, make it cream. Ugh.
That's disgusting.
Yuck.
That's why I thought these were bots. I'm like, who's coming up with this stuff? You know, that's why I thought when I discovered it was her doing that, I'm like, how are you even, she's sick. Mm-hmm. All right, go on.
Yeah.
All right, number 8, go on.
He wants sex, BJs, and making out. He don't want your sorry ass. And then the last one she sent to her daughter was, no dude ever touching that pussy, you nasty slut.
Oh, wow. She's so disgusting. Okay.
Right. And one thing I should note is that they interviewed Owen's mom, who, by the way, was friends with Kendra, because they were the parents of the kids going through this.
When the officer or the investigator asked her, do you think this could be Kendra? Something along those lines. And she immediately said no.
Right. Because that's what is so dangerous about someone like Kendra, is that they have the ability to be so predatory and have such a good mask that, there are people who, when you see them out in the world, they're very sick, but you don't know it to look at them, and that's what's scary. So Kendra had this mask, and of course it slipped and it just kind of got out of control, but it does speak to the very devious nature, because she's typing all of these. Like, the police figured out she was using an app to change her number or whatever, but she was typing all of these out with her own fingers and sending them to her 14-year-old child.
I still can't. I'm in denial about this.
Well, yeah, right, because any good, normal human being is like, it would be unconceivable, Amy, to think that a mother, could do something like this.
Yeah, that's why I have so many questions about how it went from nothing, as far as we know, to this.
My honest thought is that, think about when kids are 13, what starts to happen? Puberty. They start to get more social. Right. They get puberty. They want to be out of the house.
Yeah.
They don't need their parents as much. Everything changes.
Yeah.
I think that, again, what Kendra said at the end, I wanted to try to control the outcome of her journey. I think that's what started this.
Her independence.
Because up until 13, I'm going to use the example of narcissistic mothers, and I feel like people listening to this are going to love this. So narcissistic mothers are mothers who are the PTA moms. They're super involved. They're coaches. They're outside of the four walls of the home. They are very involved in their child's life. But when you get home and you close the door, it's very different. Because they want people and the community to think that they are this good, amazing mother, but they're not actually interested in meeting their child's needs. It's really about their needs for attention.
Facade.
Correct.
But
and yes, please.
I don't think I'm going to interrupt you anymore. Okay. But just one last thing. So, that's what changed when she turned 13. I get that. But if somebody has this serious of a psychosis, it can't just be buried for 13 years since she's had her child or since she's been married. So the psychosis had to have been coming out in other ways. How come it hasn't been seen in extraordinary ways like this if it's this bad? That's what I don't understand.
So one thing I will say is it's not psychosis, and here's why. People who have psychosis, legitimately, their brains are tricking them, lying to them. That is a very legitimate thing that people experience. Her behaviors tell me she's not psychotic at all. She made the decision day after day. Every single text that she sent, every time she did it, she made hundreds of thousands of decisions. That is the opposite of psychosis. That is personality disorder. But it's still a good question, right?
Okay.
How did she keep this under wraps for so long? Okay, well, here's what I would argue. She had enough power and control over Lauren until she turned 13 to satiate some of those needs for power and control. She also had a husband who, unfortunately, it seems like he kind of just let her, right? He thought, oh, well, you're going to take care of the finances. I'm going to work. I'm going to let you do your thing. She picked him out, I believe, as a victim. Like, you have to pick people who you can get away with something. So what this tells me is that I would guarantee that this has been a lifelong issue. And what happens is, as people get older, if you don't address the issue, it is going to get worse and worse and worse until a crisis kind of happens. And so I just think the underlying psychopathology became so significant for a multitude of reasons. A, her growing up. B, she had this weird issue with her job, whether she had it or she didn't. So there were signs that there was other things going on, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, but this is, to go this far is like, well, that's why I just don't, like, how was she not already like in jail, arrested before she even got to this point? Right.
Oh, right. Well, again, this is how, Amy, you saw her. She looks like your typical middle-aged woman. She was very, well, not convincing to me because I've seen a million people like her and she cannot fool me. But, you know, her crocodile tears and her woe is me and her boo-hoo. Women who have psychopathology will get away with much more than men do. I have seen that time and time again. They are take longer to get diagnosed. They take longer to have consequences because when the officers come and you see the body cam footage, they literally politely ask her for her phone. And she was just like, oh, I have just the one. And they just took her word for it until the husband got home. And he was like, oh, she's got another.
Yeah. And they have a search warrant. No, it sure doesn't. Yeah.
Thank you. Right.
Good point.
And then there was something else the officer said. I wrote it here because it was so weird, is that the police lied to Lauren and they made excuses for Kendra. During that body cam footage, you know, they were like, well, Lauren, you know, your mom didn't start. Because Kendra tried to say that she didn't start it, but she continued it. And
laughable.
Patently false. Laughable, right? Laughable.
Yeah.
Please. And it was also proven incorrect by FBI, who actually, you know, like, they knew what they were doing. And they're like, no, it was her this whole time. So the point is that she has pathological lying. I don't think she knows how to be honest. And then, you know, when the police, so they tell Lauren they made excuses for Kendra. And then one thing that really, really bothered me was that when police went to talk to Kendra and Lauren was there, you're talking to a perpetrator and a victim. They did not separate them. They allowed Kendra to use Lauren as a human fucking shield.
Yes. Oh my God, you're right. That was really, my skin was crawling during that moment. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because you know what? So what Kendra did was when the police told Lauren that it was her mom, Kendra went over and hugged Lauren. And I'm like thinking that, to me, out of that whole movie or documentary, that one scene stuck in my craw so bad because it's so clinically significant, because it tells you Kendra doesn't give a shit what Lauren wants. She doesn't care how Lauren feels. She doesn't care what she wants. She probably doesn't even know how she feels or what she wants. It's all about Kendra. And then Kendra was like, well, I can't leave her. And it's like, they should have been separated and interviewed separately. She should not have been allowed immediately, not been allowed to put her hands on her child, and children and youth should have been called immediately. Immediately. Okay. So, one thing that also really frustrates me is that this child, Lauren, who is a victim, she was, first of all, failed by everybody. She was failed by her mother. She was failed by law enforcement in the ways that I just explained to you. Yeah. None of that should have occurred. And the legal system didn't do much better. After the investigation, Kendra pleaded guilty to 2 counts of stalking a minor, and she was sentenced to a maximum of 5 years in prison, but she was released in 2024. She's on supervised parole until February 2026. And I think that given the severity and the number of messages and the amount of people's lives that she ruined, I think she should have served more time, and she should have had a psychological assessment. Now, I can't say for sure that they didn't do one, but this woman should not be released onto the streets until that they can assure that she's not a danger to self or others. Yeah. Because at this point, we know, unfortunately, jail, there's no rehabilitation there, especially with someone who barely even admitted what she did. She still made a million excuses. And then so legal system, law enforcement, her mother, and then I believe Netflix completely screwed this girl over. It was the Kendra show. It wasn't about Lauren, who was the victim, who literally, this child was so traumatized, holding back tears as she's talking about this. I just wanted to give her such a big hug. And I just feel like everyone failed this girl.
They did. And I'm wondering how you felt about the dad. Do you feel like the dad failed her too? Because when he was told the news about it, the text coming from Kendra, when he came home, he went inside, and when he confronted Kendra, he's talking about the jobs. He didn't lose his mind over her being responsible for everything that has happened with the texts. He didn't even address that. He was talking about the jobs in the house. That blew my mind. And he didn't even go over to his daughter. So to me, I was pretty lost on the dad too. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, in the documentary, there was a couple, I think it was Chloe's mom and dad or Adriana's mom and dad. I forget exactly who it was. And the parents both said he knew about it, allegedly. They think that the dad knew about it, and now he's pretending to be a victim.
I didn't remember hearing that. Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because she said it with her full chest, and her husband was like, that's my woman. And I was like,
I remember that part. See, I remember that part. And I remember them saying that the wife, like you said, I don't know if it was Chloe or whose mom, but she was like, I knew it was her, Kendra, the whole time. And nobody believed me. And the law enforcement, the local police completely disregarded that entirely.
Right.
I did not hear her say about how he knew. Wow. Okay. That's news to me.
And here's the thing. And that's her belief. And she's close to the situation and I'm not. So she seems to be the only one who has some clear sight about this.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that her dad let her down too, because he knew that they were having financial issues, and that's when they had to move out of the place they were, and they were going from place to place to place. Okay. So if you know that your wife has bungled the finances so severely, why have you not stepped in? Why have you not, I think with her, and again, this is why maybe he was a good victim, is that, or, you know, possibly, participated in this. I just think he had his head in the sand, ignored a lot at best, and at worst, and maybe a little bit more,
which is neglect on a whole serious level.
Correct. I mean, this woman has 2 phones. You never checked one. You never thought, oh, my daughter's being harassed, and who has 2 phones? Unless you're like a drug dealer, or I don't even know who the hell has that. Or Riley Burris, because Riley had a couple of phones. I was
just going to say, there was somebody on a show, and I wasn't going to be able to get there. Thank you.
It was Riley.
Unless you're Riley, yeah.
So I definitely think that for sure her dad let her down too. And I was shocked, like you said, that he was more focused on the job than he was about, you did that. If someone had did that to my niece, police would have had to chain me to the goddamn wall I would have ripped her ass apart. And he's just like, the jobs. And it's like, your daughter is sitting here completely dissociated, completely checked out.
So that's,
absolutely. And that's how I can tell that she really is a victim of a lot with this family, is because she's so disconnected from her emotions. She's so dissociated, that was hard for me to watch. Because she deserves so much better than that. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to, speaking of Lauren and her mom, the one thing that I wanted to address, Amy, was that people were talking about how could Lauren still want a relationship with her mother? Okay, so I'm here to answer that.
Okay.
The answer is trauma bonding. So trauma bonding is a psychological response to abuse and occurs when the abused person forms a connection or relationship with the person who abuses them. And so it complicates things when that person is a parent. Like our parents, there are only 2 people in this world who are supposed to love us unconditionally, and those are our parents. And when that doesn't happen, we don't stop loving our parent, we stop loving ourselves. And unfortunately, a shitty parent is better than no parent. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that teenage girls need their moms. And if you happen to have a narcissistic mom who is just not capable, you're gonna take whatever the hell you can get. I don't believe that Lauren understands the mechanisms behind this. I don't think many people understand it. But I noticed it immediately, which is when the producers asked her, like, what do you think about people who judge you for having this relationship? And she started to tear up, but she does this thing where she kind of tries to swallow it, which tells me that she was never allowed the time and space to have her own emotions. She cried and she said, I think people won't understand, but I don't care. And it's like, think about the horrible situation this child is in. Okay. Her parents are now divorced. Her mom went to jail. I sincerely believe, it's trauma bonding, because you guys have to remember too, is that the severe manipulative nature of Kendra, i.e., I'll give you another example of this. When Kendra was in prison, did you see the emails that she was sent?
Yeah. Why didn't you get back to me? Frowny face. I'll forgive you. Wow. That
all manipulation.
Oh my God, that sent me to the moon. I was so angry just seeing that. I was like, you're manipulating her and scolding her after what you did, and she knows it's diabolical.
Oh, that's exactly it, Amy. It is diabolical. This is not a mental health issue. This is not a poor me. I had a history of abuse. This is not that. This woman is a monster.
Wow.
She is an absolute monster. And, and so speaking of that, there was a couple of notes that I wanted to say when she was after the big reveal. When she was doing this talking head, there were a couple of major things that I noticed. Number one, people who have psychopathology engage in something called impression management. Impression management is where you care so much about what other people think that you want to manage their impressions of you, and especially with law enforcement, right? And so Kendra said to the people who were interviewing her, she said, you guys are going to think I'm a crazy lady. And I know that didn't seem like a lot, but I'm like, that is impression management right there. Oh. It's not about her daughter. It's not about her family. It's not about the kids' lives who she ruined. All she cares about is what people think of her.
Which is ironic when you do something like that. How could she do something like that if she cares so much about what people think of her?
I know. That's the rub, isn't it?
It doesn't even make sense. Like, I mean, it does make sense because of everything you said. But it just, because you kind of have to compartmentalize each psychological issue. I don't know if I'm using the words right, but you have to take them separately in a way. And then you've got this, banquet of problems with this lady.
Literally. Yes, literally. Of very severe problems. So the one thing she said is that I noticed she has a tendency of when she's lying, she says the word honestly. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay. And that is something, again, people, when they have pathology, they have so much ego and narcissism that they think they're smarter than people and that they won't be found out. But they overestimate themselves and they underestimate other people, like myself, which is just funny. It's kind of the nature of a narcissist. But she said, Lauren knows she's small and petite, and I may have picked up on some of her insecurities with her appearance. But honestly, the messages weren't targeted at her insecurities. And then she tried to claim that this bullshit was about her.
Because she struggled with anorexia?
Apparently so. And I'm like, you struggle with some things, but anorexia isn't one of them. When she is texting her daughter, no one wants your flat anorexic ass. That's not, I may have. That's, you did. Yeah. You knew your daughter's weaknesses, her insecurities, her soft points, and you manipulated and pressed on every single one of those for your own benefit.
Yeah.
And then there was another time where she said, honestly, this was what was insane too. Okay. Kendra cried discussing her love for her child and not wanting her child to be sexually abused like she was, but you sexually harassed your own child.
Right.
So what are you even talking? You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
I think what you're saying, Amy, is that none of this makes sense. And to healthy, loving, good people, I could explain this till the cows come home and it isn't going to make sense.
Right.
Because you're a healthy, loving person who loves your child and would rather die than see harm come to her. And unfortunately, there are a lot of parents, mothers out there who are really scary people. And sometimes it doesn't get found out. There are people who grow up with mothers like this, and then it's not until they're middle-aged and they start to tell people, and then people are like, wow, I had no idea. It's all about that mask. It's all about that mask that these predators wear. And so, for me, that's kind of most of what I wanted to talk about here. But
her friend,
it's just so intense.
Her cousin, when she got on the screen, I was like, let's go. Let's get down to what you know. All we got was, she really likes the limelight. She really likes attention. That's really all we got. We didn't get anything else from her. I was like, right, you're supposed to be the key to the truth. What happened in her childhood? What else did she do that was diabolical when you were younger? She had to have done something. She had to have shown you this side of her other than just wanting attention. Like, she had nothing. And that I don't understand. I mean, there's so much.
Well, let me explain. So this is where I think Netflix dropped the ball, because that's where a professional would have come in clutch in terms of, like, for example, her cousin, she's not a professional. She's a regular person. So when the Netflix producers are asking her, she's a layperson. She doesn't know. She's like, I don't know. She liked attention and blah, blah, blah. But like, how well do you really know your cousins growing up? How well do you really know someone? And what I can tell you is, you can be married to someone, a family member, and have no idea how diabolical somebody is. If sometimes you're not a professional and you don't know what to look out for. Because I agree with you, this is more than she just liked attention. Mm-hmm. This is more than she had a history of childhood trauma. This is more than that. But what I would have loved is for a professional to come in and take what the cousin said, and take what the police said, and take what people said, and weave, like I am, kind of weave this tapestry of, this is how this happens, and this is what this looks like. I think the show could have gone from amazing to, like, it could have gone to another level had they done that. But this comes back to my first criticism, which is, I think Netflix or producers let this woman off the hook time and time and time again. And I just am not here for it.
Yeah, they wanted to get what they want. They were selfish about what they wanted to get from her, which is they wanted her to be the laughingstock. They wanted her to be in on this twist for the storyline. They wanted that, for the sake of
for the entertainment value.
Yeah.
Correct. So again, Lauren was let down by her parents, the legal system, law enforcement, Netflix, and the entertainment industry. They used this girl's literal life, this trauma. She will never be the same. When you experience trauma like this, when your brain is still growing, which research suggests we used to think it's up until age 25. And now there's research that suggests if you're neurodivergent, it's actually closer to 30. So you're basically talking about a child's brain, developmentally speaking, enduring all of these things. And I can tell that she's going to have psychological, long-lasting impacts forever, for the rest of her life. And she was just done dirty by every single person. And I don't like it.
Now, when she got out of prison, she's not allowed to see her mother. And is
Correct.
that because of the law, or because of, is there a restraining order? Is that because of the law, or is that because that is what the father asked to do? And if that's the case, will she be able to see her when she turns 21, if she wants to?
So what I think, and I would have to do more research on this, which I should have, but I forgot, which is, she cannot have contact now because she was found guilty of stalking. And so I don't believe that there is like a protective order, but I do believe that it's in her, whatever you want to call that, her probation terms agreement, to not be able to have a relationship with her now. But absolutely, as soon as Lauren turns 18 or 21, at some point, she's going to have to make those choices. Do I want to continue to have contact with my mom? And just think for a second.
I hope that she doesn't.
I know, but think about if Lauren decides to get engaged, get married, have a baby. These are milestones that we need our mom for. And so, unfortunately, I think for Lauren, her toughest days are ahead in terms of grief and loss and processing that the person who's supposed to love you the most in the world hurt you more than anybody else could. I think that this is going to take a long time for her to sort out. And I would happily offer her free therapy, like literally forever, for the rest of her life, because she deserves the world, and she deserves better than what she's getting. And I just hope she knows that she's amazing and didn't deserve any of it.
Yeah. Do you think that what could possibly have happened in Kendra's life, not necessarily the sexual assault, because we know that that's not how a typical victim of that would ever respond. What could possibly happen to somebody that would push them to have this desire to hurt their own child like this? What could explain? What kind of trauma would explain that?
I don't think trauma would explain it. I think it's explained by her pathological, clinically significant need for power, attention, and control.
Wow. God, that every time you say it, I mean, it's hard to sink in, you know? It's starting to sink in. But it is, I get it. I'm starting to get it more because the need for power, as we've seen in many cases, I mean, it manifests itself in many different ways and manifests itself in many different disastrous scenarios that hurt people, that kill people. So I guess at the end of the day, that really does make a lot of sense. It's just such a unique, extraordinary situation that I just can't, I'm like, well, something, you know, what happened?
Yeah,
that was
like
so
there has
specific?
to be
Like,
something else.
I need, I've got the X, but I need the other two numbers to add up to it, or, you know, or it's 2X. I just don't know. So, okay. Sure. But I'm glad that you clarified that being a victim of assault, you know, it is an insult to people who are victims, that she would wrongfully point the finger at that as an excuse. That is actually really infuriating to me now that I understand more when you were talking about that.
Right. And so I imagine that a lot of survivors got real angry, you know, myself included, when I saw that, because it's like, nah, bro, you're like, you have problems. Like, you're, no, fuck you. That's not it. You know, but.
I have a question for you. So at the end, I felt that there was a little bit of a twist, at least for me. When we found out from Owen that she was very pursuant of him, because I did not have that in the forefront of the documentary. At that point, I was just thinking it was all about Kendra and Lauren. It really had nothing to do with Owen, you know? I didn't think there was a connection there. And then we got there at the very end of the documentary, and I'm like, and that's where you're going to leave us? So was she trying to pursue him this entire time? Was it about this? Was she trying to, was that her ultimate plan, was to get with him?
I think that at the end of the documentary, one thing that Owen's mom said that really stuck with me is that when Owen and Lauren broke up, Kendra went to all of Owen's games. Mm-hmm. And that seems like a very teenagery thing to do, right?
Yes.
Right. Like, I broke them up and now let me try to swoop in.
Right.
And I wonder, there is a part of my brain that's saying, I wonder if she thought that maybe she'd be able to engage with him. And then when that didn't happen, that's when she went back to the texting. Oh. Because when she was going to his games, that's when she had taken the break.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that Owen's mother was right. And to your point, you're right too, is that it's not just one thing. This is not just one thing. This is a myriad of very complex psychological components. But I do believe that part of it is that she had an infatuation with Owen, who was a 13-year-old child.
And she was jealous of her own daughter. So like when you put that motivation on it as well, like the power, the control, everything, when she told on herself by saying she wanted to control her journey, all of that is its own thing. But also she must have had some, I don't know what her life was like when she was a young teen, but clearly she wants what her daughter's life is, because she maybe did not have that at all. And now is trying to, as we've seen so many times with mothers, stage moms and all those things, they're living vicarious through their kids, you know. She not only is trying to live vicariously, she's trying to destroy and take the feelings of that, take over, and then like take those feelings of being that age and then ultimately try to be with Owen in some way.
One key component of narcissistic mothers is that they are always jealous of their daughters.
Wow.
Always. They are jealous of their daughters, the attention that they get, which is, she said something in a text, you trying to get attention, fuck off. I think that was very telling. I think she wanted her daughter's life. I think she had a preoccupation with a 13-year-old boy named Owen. I think that she was upset with
when
the attention.
When you say preoccupation, what do you mean?
I think that she was a little bit obsessed with Owen.
Oh, all right.
Inappropriately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she was jealous of her daughter, the attention her daughter was getting, the love that her daughter was getting from Owen. And I think it's interesting because it's like, why would you want your 13-year-old child to give blowjobs and do all these sexual acts? And I think that's kind of sickly tied into Kendra's her belief that like she would know what to do with Owen and you don't. You know what I mean? Again, I could be wrong. There certainly could be missing puzzle pieces, but I've thought about this for a million hours. And this is, for me, I definitely think that there's antisocial tendencies, lack of empathy, there's needs for power and control, there's narcissism, there's ego, and then there's this preoccupation with an underage child. It is a litany, if you will, of psychological issues that this woman should not be walking the streets. And the fact that she is absolutely shocking to me.
Can I ask you 2 more questions, if you don't mind? Okay. The first one is, as we're going through this and my mind is shifting around and thinking about all these texts and the sexual nature, obviously, that, now that I'm over the shock of those, I guess I'll never be over it. But now that we are really digging in and hearing everything you have to say, do you think that when things turned so sexual and the threats about how Owen wouldn't want to be with her, he wants those things in a relationship, that her goal was to push Lauren to have sex with him, to do that with him, so that then she ultimately would get pregnant, and then Owen would always be in her life because of the baby. And then she could really see, now I'm really making stories up. But, I'm starting to think maybe there was a grander plan to get him closer so that she could ultimately be with him sexually. Thank you.
You may totally be Amy, I swear to you. No, I swear to you. I think when you're dealing with someone who is led by psychopathology and not logic and, whatever, I think that that is definitely not beyond a realm of possibility, because I think that Kendra was so over-focused on Owen that I just think she needed him in her orbit no matter how much. And so for sure that could be a possibility.
I mean, to see the texts being so sexual, almost saying what to do in a way, like this is what you should do. And then for them to go into self-harming herself, it shows like she was trying one angle, which is like, try to get this girl pregnant, and then the mother's going to be the savior of like, I'll take care of the baby, and like I'll keep you closer, and controlling that. And then when that didn't seem to work, and then they broke up or whatever, I don't know the timeline of the text. At some point when the thread happened where she was telling her to get rid of herself. But that was the other option, to get rid of her entirely, and that her daughter would do it on her own so that she would have more access to him and she could comfort him. And then it could happen that way. Okay. So now I've got all my crazy theories out there. But the biggest question I have is, would she have gone so far as to kill her daughter? Because that, to me, as you were saying, she should not be on the streets. She should be locked up. Where she should be has nothing to do with where she is. And to say that she wasn't a threat to her life, her actual life, that was never brought up, that's actually like a premeditated murder to tell someone to kill themselves?
Right.
I don't understand why that's not taken more seriously in this. So would she have done that? Do you think she would have been capable of doing it? Because I do. I think she could have killed her. I really do.
Amy, if she could have unleashed literal psychological warfare on her child, anything is possible. Absolutely, positively. If this, here's what I can tell you for sure. Remember how I told you when I was going through the timeline that escalation was important?
Yes, yes.
Escalation indicates that things are getting out of control, and I believe that the escalation was so much that if this had not been found out, I absolutely would have been concerned for Lauren's safety. Could this have turned into a factitious disorder imposed on another, where all of a sudden she starts poisoning her making her sick? And because when you have this pathological need for attention, someone like Kendra doesn't care how she gets it. Mm-hmm. Her daughter is an object for her to be used. Lauren is a tool to be used by Kendra. So to answer your question is absolutely anything is possible. Mm-hmm. And for sure, if she hadn't gotten caught, this would have just really bad things could have happened for sure.
Wow.
And to go back to what you said, I thank you for, your point about why did more people not care about, making these threats, about death threats and about self-harm and all of that. That part to me is like, why was this not investigated more? Why was this not a charge? Or listen, and maybe that's a legal thing. But I do think that the most diabolical thing that you could do is try to convince your own child to end their life. Mm-hmm. So why would you have any qualms with ending it for them?
Mm. Wow, that's chilling, Melissa.
Yeah. I know.
Jeez.
Well,
that escalated.
Here we are.
That escalated quickly.
But honestly, so Amy, let me ask you a couple of questions. So at the end of the day, what of the things that I've said and of the things that we've talked about, I don't know, did it make sense what we talked about? Like, is there any other lingering questions or things that you're still like, I'm confused about this, or thoughts about anything? Because you've made some you joked about being in the sidecar, but you've made some very excellent points.
Oh, Bubba, you're doing great, Bubba. You went through this with a fine-tooth comb. You crossed every T and every I that could be dotted. And it does make sense now. Obviously in the grand scheme of things, it will never make sense. But why are we here as people? Is there a God? That it falls under that category. But for the sake of being so desperate to understand and not knowing where this falls in the world of psychology, you have completely laid that out. And for that, I'm so thankful. I just am blown away at how complicated it is. It's really not it's not a straight line. Right. And clearly we're all, everything's not black and white. But I did think that there had to have been cause and effect here. And it simply is not that easy to explain that way. However, you did pinpoint the biggest thing, which is the power and the control and the narcissism. And that to me is enough to be able to have a conclusion and closure. It's enough for me to have closure,
Right.
Because and I love when you point out the moments that none of us would ever see. When you say that you see somebody telling on themselves, I love that. Every time we talk about a documentary or show, you always can see that with your eagle eye, and I love that.
It's, it's one of the things that my clinical practice has really informed, right? Because you learn about things, but then you see them in real life and you see the ways that people present. And so, my career has really afforded me that ability But yeah, it was amazing, those little things that just stuck out in my brain because of the things, right, that I've seen. I call myself the antisocial whisperer. So my career, I worked with a lot of antisocial folks. And,
Oh, that's so cool.
I learned
love
a lot.
that. I love that.
Yeah. So I am so grateful for us to be able to do this episode. I love when we collab. I know the Darling Fishes love a collab. And listen, I've been in my grief bubble, so I'm just grateful that you got me out of the bubble, and I've had so much fun. Well, not that the subject matter has been fun, let me be clear, but it's been fun, to talk with you and to talk with you all, our darling fishes.
It's a great distraction, and for you to exercise your brain the way that you do when it pew, 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 pew is firing on all cylinders, I think that's wonderful for you to do, especially during this time, and I'm so happy that we were able to do this. Thank you. This is probably one of, at least for me, one of the most disturbing stories I've ever heard.
I agree. And listen, being a therapist, right, being an empathetic witness to sex trafficking, abuse, trauma, right, I have heard some awful, awful things. To me, this is top of the list. And I've seen some shit. So, but to validate you and everyone listening to this is that if you're enraged, good. That means that you're healthy. That means that you are appropriately reacting to this scenario. So cadoos, as Ramona would say.
Yeah. And also thank you for explaining so many of the areas that we should be enraged about that aren't obvious to some of us. And me, like there were so many things that you said. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like it was so surprising and shocking. And most of us, and me included, got really swept away in the entertainment of it. Like I always do. I'm always going to be a pawn of that. So salacious. But at the end of the day, I just, was so disturbed by this. I can't shake it, and so I'm really glad to have worked through this with you. Oh my gosh, what a collab. Well, thanks, darlings. Yeah. Thanks, bishes. And we definitely do it again sometime, obviously. Sometime.
Yes, of course. And of course, you all know where to find us, but, please check me out, www.patreon.com/YourBishTherapist. Please check me out on Instagram, YourBishTherapist. I'm taking a smidgen of a break from the podcast. This is actually going to be my season finale, and I wouldn't want it to be with anyone else, Amy. So thank you for that.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Drama Darling. Check me out over wherever you get your podcasts and patreon.com/drama darling and meet Amy Phillips. Melissa, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, girl.